remember about 2 years ago, before I had a 3D printer, I was running a weekly D&D game for my group, and I got this inspiration on Monday to include an encounter in Wednesday night's game that was gonna have cultists and an intellect devourer, which if you don't play D&D, it's this little like walking brain dog thing. So I wrote that encounter on Monday, and I wanted to include it on my Wednesday game. And I was a new DM at the time, and I wanted some minis for this because I was really getting into minis. I was really liking them at the time. And there was no way that I would have been able to have bought some on Amazon, and my local game store didn't have any either. So I felt like I really had no options at the time. It wasn't until my friend Giuliano, who had just recently bought a Monoprice Select Mini, volunteered to print me some. Now keep in mind, this was before I had my own printer. He didn't print minis. This was just like a favor that he did for me. And this was before we knew that there was a community that was doing this, that was teaching people how to print. And this was years ago, so I think our understanding of what we could do with FDM printers and the printers that we had at the time were a little more limited than what we have now. And seeing the reaction my players had, the pictures they took, these pictures are from them, made me realize that I really wanted to do this more often, even if the minis weren't the same qualities I could get from like a Reaper or WizKids mini. I still wanted it for the customization and the specific minis that I wanted to put on my board. So if you don't know about 3D printing, or maybe you don't even know how to find the models that you want, this video is going to show you how quick and easy it is to find whatever D&D minis you want to your heart's content, and then some. So, let's do it. Hi there, I'm Danny, the 3D Printing DM. Welcome to 3D Printed Tabletop, a channel where we cover all things 3D printing for your tabletop games. Around my channel, you've probably seen 3D printed miniatures on like some D&D Facebook groups, or maybe it's one of the different guilds that are there, or you've seen it on Reddit, or you've just seen it on Imager, just anywhere on the internet. They're really popular these days. And what you're seeing is really just a small fragment of what's available. The entire monster manual and a whole bunch of other books are available right now. So many people have made this, and this is thanks to Wizards of the Coast pretty liberal fan art policy. A lot of it is completely free to download, and in many cases there's even multiple versions if you want to pay for it and get maybe a different art style from a different sculptor as well. So you can choose the model that you like the best. Those of you who are seasoned 3D printers probably have already perfected finding the models that you want, specifically, you know, the modelers you love. But if you're new, it's quickly overwhelming, and it's frankly struggling to find the model you want, even on Thingiverse or some other places like that. So this video is just meant to give some practical tips and suggestions to help you navigate that, and if you're new, to give you very specific steps of how you can do it yourself. Let's head over to my computer real quick. Okay, so first, a lot of the models I'm going to show you were made by a guy named Miguel Zavala, MZ4250. I talk about him a lot on the channel because he's really one of the pioneers of making free models, just giving them to the community. He's been doing it for 4 years. And so he's made over 1,500 sculpts at this point. And a big reason why I can make this video is because of him. It's pretty insane to think he's been doing this for 4 years without asking for anything at this point. So yeah. So to start, we're gonna go to Google. We're gonna search the monster name and MZ4250. Let's try something like a Dao, which is an earth genie, basically. If you're including a Dao in your game, it's pretty much because you have a very specific purpose for it. So that's why I'm using this one as an example. There's all sorts of goblins and orcs and other kind of pretty common monsters, but there's not that many unique ones like this one, like a Dao. So some of these monsters, when you type in the name of the monster and MZ4250, you're gonna see that it's on Shapeways. And others of them, for example, I'll just do an orc. Others of them are going to be both on Shapeways as well as on Thingiverse. And part of that is because some of these monsters are like licensed for Wizards of the Coast, and they don't allow them to be on other ones according to Miguel. He says that was the agreement that they came to with each other. So if you see them on Shapeways and Thingiverse, it's the same thing. So we're gonna go back to that Dao on Shapeways, and you're gonna see this, okay, and it's gonna tell you how to download it, okay? And it says not for sale, right? Because this is one of those models that, again, he isn't allowed to like sell for profit. When you sign in order to download from Shapeways, you have to be logged in, and then when you are, you'll see this button that says download product. Okay. And then here, we're gonna open it. At this point, you can just kind of pull it in and see it. And here's our DAO. Okay. It's that simple. So in many cases, like I mentioned with the orc, okay, you can just type in something like Thingiverse, it auto-corrected me there. Here's an orc fighter. I show in one of my other videos how you can get this orc fighter, and you can see it in Thingiverse as well as in Shapeways. You just type in orc MZ4250, here it is on Shapeways. And this is like a high poly version. This is a better one that he made, but it's still free. You can download it right here. Okay, he's gone back and redone a lot of these, but you can still see all the historical ones. And guys, I know that there's a lot of like Reaper or WizKids goblins that I have. Look, I've got some right here. This is one of the orcs. But the place where this just comes in really handy is with those monsters like the DAO that you don't have an easily accessible mini to, that you can't just go to your game store and buy a mini of, because they're pretty uncommon. And so a lot of the game companies don't make them, but Miguel's made them, even if it's been a few years, right? And they're readily available for free, which is good for us, right? Look at this. Pentadrone, Spirit Naga, Garden Naga, Oni, Black Pudding, a Periton. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Salamander, and now the type. This, all of the slides, however you pronounce that. And it looks like he updated them recently too. A Gynosphinx, very regal. Never used it in my life. A Zorn, a Lamia, a Gorgon. You probably get the point by now. Once you find it, you just download it. It's super simple. You have two options, Shapeways and Thingiverse. If anything, always Shapeways. If you're interested in seeing like a full process of like downloading to printing and finishing and stuff, you can watch the video that I have up here. And there's more. Miguel is usually the first place to tell people to go if they're looking for a very specific monster in D&D. There's a lot of other people who have been making minis in different styles as well. Going back to that story from earlier in the video, when I first printed that Intellect Devourer and that Cultist, that was 2 years ago. There really wasn't that many people making it. There wasn't a billion Patreons. There wasn't a bunch of Kickstarters for minis. There was just a handful of people, and it was pretty much Miguel. But nowadays, there's incredible choice of miniatures that you could choose from, especially if you're looking for a different style of mini. So I'm just gonna show you a few of the other places you might look if you want to see maybe what else is out there, what other minis have been made for D&D, as well as what Miguel has made. First, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon. Their support is a big part of the reason why I'm able to make this type of video and help people like you to get started 3D printing minis and getting excited about all of the options and the cool customization and the ways that you can kind of use this technology to have more fun with your friends and at your tables. So if you're one of those people who wants to see what other free minis are out there, I have a couple of things I can recommend for you after looking at Miguel's models. The first is the Mini Index. Let me tell you a little bit about the Mini Index. So the Mini Index is in beta, but basically the Mini Index is this crowdsourced repository for places. It's pretty much Thingiverse from my understanding, but I think there's other places too. You can look for something that you specifically want. You can see I type in human fighter class right there, it comes up, and then I can search. And here we go. Here we have a bunch of people. So looks like a lot of these are by T.S. Henry. I believe that's TJ, if I'm not mistaken. And look at these models that he's got. All these are different models that he has. Samurai Kineticist, Gladiator, Lizardfolk Warrior. And I think that he did these based off of Valandar's basic models. But you can see there's variety here if you want to see them. Oh, look at this one, Smiths of Earth. I like that. I think they've got a Patreon too. That's a nice model. I gotta say, really nice paint job too, but you can see there's so many options here. And if you need a very specific miniature, this is a great way to kind of search for it. You can search by sex, by gender, my apologies. You can search for classes, different types of monster. For example, let's say you want an Oni. Then you'd go here and you'd see these different Oni, right? Pretty cool. So you can see you have some different options there. Let's try looking up that dowel that I mentioned earlier. Dowel, it's not even in here yet, so it hasn't even been sourced, which again is one of the issues with the mini index, but it's in beta and it relies on the community, and I think that the more people that use it, the more likely this will have a more robust repository, if you will. The next place that you saw is Thingiverse, and when I go to Thingiverse, it's pretty bad. So for example, if you type in dowel, you won't really find much. If I type in 28 millimeter, I'll get all sorts of stuff. It's very difficult for me to find certain models because Thingiverse's search is not the best, you know. So let's say I type in orc. Okay, so here's a bunch of orcs that come up, and that's a pretty generic word, so it makes sense for me. But yeah, you have all these different varieties. So for example, if you liked the more realistic proportions that Miguel has, great, you've got an orc right there. If you want the, more like Warhammer style, well look, here's a war chief right here. If you want, and here's the updated orc warrior that Miguel made. Definitely an improvement in quality there. But you can see here different orc spearmen by Valandar, who I've talked about on the channel before. Has more of a Warhammer feel to him, more heroic proportions, a lot easier to print usually. But again, you want to look at these things and kind of choose. That's the good thing. These are all free, and that's part of the benefit of being able to look up like this. A lot of times, doing something like orc on Thingiverse is going to be a little bit easier. You can see things that are tagged. Look at the options that I got here that are just so much different than when I looked it up. I mean, Artisan Guild, look at this one, right? You can see if you wanted to orc, well, all that came up was the other orcs. Heroscape proxies, blade gruts, orc skeletons, orc on a beak rider, Big Mr. Tong has all these orcs on these wolves. Just a lot of other cool stuff. So a lot of times, doing a Google search with Thingiverse is going to be better than search on Thingiverse itself. The next place I go generally, or that's a good place, is MyMiniFactory. And MyMiniFactory has a lot of paid stuff, but also has a lot of free stuff too. Here's some other minis, for example, an ogre zombie. So let's type in orc. Okay, and here you can see a whole bunch of different orcs. You see, and MyMiniFactory has its own modelers and people that do stuff on here that don't go on Thingiverse, which is why I say this is another really good option. And a lot of the people from Thingiverse are on here too. So this is another really good place that you can check. But, look at these ogres. If you want to see this orc, I said ogres, I'm sorry. This orc is cool, but definitely not scaled well for 28 millimeters. It'd be really difficult. You'd probably have to print it in resin. Check this out. Morgan Moray, I've mentioned him before on our channel, and dude's got some really pretty awesome orcs. The proportions are really pretty challenging to print, but they're so nice. So nice. Okay, a bunch of orcs that are definitely inspired by World of Warcraft. You have Arian Croft, Dutch mogul. He's made a whole bunch of orcs for his previous one. And you can just see a whole bunch of different options here, you guys. There's another repository that I go to, which is Yeggi. And Yeggi isn't the highest quality repository. Look at that, 1,900,000 models. But if you type in orc, okay, you just get a wider variety of things. You can see there's some models here that we haven't seen, like Punching Orc, Warhammer Quest. You got more from this. And again, you can see where the website is, MyMiniFactory. And then you can see a bunch of models here that are for sale too. So if you don't want models that are for sale, you go to search options and you type in free, right? You just click on it. And now you have a bunch of things that are excluded from this website. Of course, if you're comfortable with the sales, then you just do all, and then you can see some other ones here. But here you can see these are Warhammer Quest proxies. Punching Orc. Pretty cool. And yeah. In my opinion, these are probably just like the basics, the best places that I go to start outside of like being in the community and being on Facebook groups and Reddit and seeing what people are posting there. Because over time you'll meet, I say meet, but you'll get to know a lot of the other artists who are making stuff all the time, and you'll get to know their styles and you'll decide which ones you kind of like the most. But that takes a while to start getting there unless you're like obsessed and looking at every single Kickstarter and stuff and so on and so forth, right? Alright, just sold me on the free stuff. Now where can I find some paid files for some really, really nice D&D monsters? You're probably already familiar like with Fat Dragon Games because they've been around for so long, or they've had so many miniatures that they've made, and I've covered them a lot in this channel. So I want to talk about some other options maybe that aren't as popular or you might not know of. And I say this because I still get comments in the Kickstarter. I still get comments on my Facebook page and stuff from people like, I want Underdark miniatures and terrain. And I realize that there's just people that don't know about some of the other Kickstarters that have gone on and so forth. In terms of bulk value, I want to say, and just like collections of minis that I think would be good for different campaign settings. These are a lot of Kickstarters that have happened previously, or some are going on right now. So just these are some things that I think are good and probably the best value we've seen up until this point in our community. So if you're running like a Seas campaign, which you might be because of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which is dropping very shortly as of filming this video, there's a Kickstarter going on right now called Depths of Savage Atoll, and it's by Evan Crothers, EC3D, who I've talked about before on this channel, and it's doing really well. It's got 20 days to go, and he's got so many things in here. And just look at these paint-ups. They're beautiful. And the minis in here are beautiful. They're super varied, and there's every single type. He's got so many stretch goals here that are more than just like the seas. There's jungle, there's all sorts of things, a swamp here, right? Merfolk City. Incredible value. Definitely something to check out if you run any type of sea campaign or if you're interested in Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And the other campaign here that I think is worth checking out is the Swamps of Sorrow. Look at that, it's a WoW zone. Didn't remember that. But there's a Kickstarter going on by Aether Studios, and they've also invested a lot. They just launched. This is their first Kickstarter, but the models are really pretty nice, and they have covered swamps like extremely thoroughly. Just some beautiful projects. I've seen some of these paint jobs. Like they've got these swamp rat packs. But again, this is what I'm saying, like, you're not really, if you're new to this community, you're not going to find out about these really quickly. And so coming on these Kickstarter, seeing the free models that they're giving away, like this swamp rat pack right now, these Kuatoa, these different things that they have here, is just a really good way for you to kind of get familiar. But it takes a while to get there, which is why I'm sharing this. Because if you're running a water campaign of any sort, or you're by a swamp or jungle or anything like that, I think these are pretty much the best value as far as how much you can get for it. Usually $60 to $70. You get like anywhere from 50 to 100 minis, a bunch of terrain pieces all the time. And in this case, their specialty is printing without supports, which is where they come. I know a lot of people ask for more supportless miniatures, and this is kind of a good place to go. And I know that in Depths of Savage Atoll, a lot of their models print without supports too, especially for resin printers. So there's that. So if you're running like an Underdark campaign and you want a lot of Drow and Drow minis and like spider minis, pretty much any type of mini you can get from the Underdark. The best campaign I've seen is Skyless Realms, and Skyless Realms has late pledges available still, and it's just incredible value. Like every single time I need a Drow, they have stuff here, and yeah, it's awesome. It's pretty amazing. If you want a Hell campaign, then the one that I can suggest is Hell Hath No Fury Kickstarter. This is by Morgan Moray, 3D printed obsession on MyMiniFactory. It's legit. Pretty much every type of demon, I would say more demons than devils, and a lot of other really clever stuff. Lots of minis on here too. They're gonna be fulfilling through MyMiniFactory soon, so I'm not sure if they have everything available or not, but they do. You can check out Uncle Jesse's video. He did a review video on them, and it's pretty awesome. So yeah, link down below. The other option, if you're going to, is Kingdoms of Hell by Ill-Gotten Games, and you can purchase some of these things on their store as well. They have kind of a starter pack, a whole bunch of stuff, but if you want minis, these are just some of their options that they have here. Super cool, really nice sculpts. If you have an Undead campaign, there's two Kickstarters that come to mind. It's this one, the Dungeon Works Monstrous Encounters Undead Rising late pledge. You can see me use some of these minis in the video that I talk about my D&D one-shot for Game of Thrones. And I show some of these minis and I print them and paint them. There's a lot more variety in here in this Kickstarter, and they all print supportless as well. So they're pretty awesome. Definitely a very particular style too. If you want more realistic proportions, it's not going to be the best, but if you want a printable, they're phenomenal. And he's got all different kinds of zombies and undead there. The other option is Cross Lances, and Cross Lances did a Kickstarter called the Cemetery Gate. They have this like Cemetery Gate stuff, but there's a whole bunch of minis here, and some of them have these like interesting poses, like this one, like jazz hands, which is pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of these are cool. Like these Banshees are awesome, you know, and some of the stretch goals are really cool too. But just another option for you guys too that I've seen as far as like bulk goes. And we've also made a lot of 3D printable minis. You'll see them all the time on the channel from our last Kickstarter, which you can see on our shop. And we're always making stuff. So checking out our store is another cool place that you could look if you are interested. And it's a great way to get some cool models and support the channel as well. If you find yourself going down that rabbit hole of looking through the 1,500 minis that are available, excellent. You're not alone. It's happened to all of us that are new. But really, you'll probably enjoy this video where I tell you about 10 miniature modelers that I think you check out that are worth your time. It's a little more in-depth, shows a lot more of actual prints of a bunch of models that I think are for people that are making stuff for our hobby. Click on that video to enjoy. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Happy printing and happy gaming.